to another episode of the GMT Podcast here in OSI Podcast Studios and All Night Study at the University of Central Florida. And I'm here as always with my co-host Ogarth.
What's up, everybody?
And we are here with you this week to break down what was a pretty great week of homecoming here at the University of Central Florida. As student government put on a lot of great events throughout the week that the entire student body, and us included, we did take part in. Starting off with Monday was pretty great, was a comedy night with Nick Swarsden, which was a lot of fun, and there were a lot of awesome laughs.
Yeah, on Tuesday they kicked off the night by having a movie night at CFE. Finding Dory was actually a great movie. I actually attended that.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a great turnout as well. And then the next night, it actually was a brand new event this year that they're rolling out with homecoming, is Knight's Got Talent, which was as exactly as it sounds, a lot of our own students and the student body coming out and showing off a lot of awesome stuff, from like people singing to like a baton twirler, it's just all over the place. It was really a pretty awesome night.
Yeah, and then they kicked off Thursday. We had actually a concert night. That's when Ludacris came with Ty Dolla $ign, and that was a great night also.
Yeah, and then to kind of finish off the regular week of stuff, which was a wonderful fireworks display, which was left me thinking, goodness, that was like Disney-esque. That it was a great display. It just was beautiful, like the music and everything. It was almost a little scary because there was a little bit of rain right before it started, but then it kind of laid off and just kind of let it be very awesome. We got to enjoy our Friday night and finish off with some fireworks.
Leading after Friday night into Saturday, we had a tailgate first things, and then we had the football game.
Yeah, which was not the ending to the homecoming week that we did want. But tailgate was a lot of fun as always. The rain doesn't stop anyone, and it was a lot of fun to be out there and to be around all of it, as people were really excited for this game this week.
Yeah, big game this week, homecoming game. They crowned homecoming king and queen.
Yeah, it was a lot of awesome stuff during the halftime. We can definitely give the band credit. They did an awesome job. And while it wasn't as bad as last year's homecoming game, this game was not a great one in particular. It did start off pretty great, though.
It started off really good. Started off with high-powered UCF.
Yes,
offense.
UCF came out strong as Temple won the toss and then deferred to the second half. So UCF got the ball, came right out. It was a 55-yard touchdown pass to Traquan Smith. Yeah. And it was like, wow, this is going to be a great game. We got the 2-point conversion on top of that, come out 8-0. But then Temple came right back down and responded to make it 8-7. And it just kind of in the first half, Knights did a great job. Yeah. We were able to extend that lead that to even into halftime was 25-7.
Yeah,
and it was great. It was absolutely just a wonderful game from that standpoint. But we come out to the second half, and that wasn't the case, unfortunately. And as we've talked about before, my not favorite player, Mackenzie Milton, he ended up being something that you can't necessarily say on one player that they cost him the game, because that's harsh to do, and you can point back to a lot of other different miscues or mistakes that could end up being the cause of the game, because it's never one play or one player. And so it was just a lot of that, but his play definitely hurt them big time in the second half, because he couldn't hit an open receiver to save his life or find one for that much.
Yeah, in the first half, it was a good play for him. I thought he was defying all your odds.
He was, and I was happy about it, but it was kind of during the first half. I was saying to my buddy I was there with, I was like, the very first pass he threw to an open guy, and that was great. But some of the other things throughout the game, it just was certain things that that you could see, and it was even in the second half as well, that there were a lot of open people that he did complete it to, but if he had threw to the person in stride, hit him in stride, that they could have been going for a lot more yardage or even potentially touchdowns, but because they were very inaccurate throws to very open receivers, that our skill guys made some great acrobatic catches, but it just hurt that they weren't given the ball in a great spot to not let them show off that talent to go further down the field.
Yeah, so the ending of the game was pretty crazy, to say the least.
It was. It made SportsCenter. Yeah. So I was like, great, we made SportsCenter this week for all the wrong reasons, because if you weren't able to watch the game or be at the game, It was 40 seconds left or something like that. Like Temple gets the ball back after UCF ran the clock down after a big 4th and 15 stop.
Yeah.
To made it seem like that the game was going to be over. I mean, if you follow me on Twitter, it definitely looked like at that point it was going to be over. I even tweeted that at that point. But give Temple some credit. They took some quick shots down the field, and they were able to get down, and they scored a touchdown with 1 second left.
Yeah, we made not top 10.
No, oh goodness, they made my not top 10 right at the top. But, I mean, it just was a lot of unfortunate plays, and as it was pointed out, we're just a couple of plays away from being 5-1.
Exactly.
Which is very realistic because we've now lost two not very good teams in Maryland and oh goodness,
Temple.
Maryland and Temple, which was yesterday. I'm so just out of it. I wasn't thrilled with that last night. But I think one of the things that was a big point in this was not necessarily my dislike for the quarterback position right now, but I think Frost outcoached himself. Because there wasn't, I don't know, Temple did an okay job of just being there, but that was about it. I didn't see anything that Temple did that, I don't know, that merited them to win that game. And I'm not talking about earning the game, but I just don't think they made plays to justify them winning it, is what I would say. Because the very first drive that they scored that touchdown on, where we say they responded, they got 50 yards in penalties to open up shop on the UCF 49 for their very first drive. So he gifted them 50 yards for kicking the ball out of bounds and then having a stupid personal foul to give them another 15 yards on top of that. And we do actually have a picture of exactly that with number 22, where he's just kicking a guy in the head. There was no point. We made some great plays, and the defense did a great job last night, but you can't give them penalties. And then a lot of decisions Frost made, I think he went conservative, which was very odd to see out of him.
Yeah.
And I was kind of questioning during the game. I was like, is this him or is this Milton making these decisions? Because the quarterback does get a lot of, in this kind of offense as well, they get a lot of decision-making choices because of handing it off. There are a lot of run-pass option plays that are in this offense. And so wondering if some of these conservative calls were the quarterback or if it was Frost. Because he's normally very aggressive, and I just didn't see that last night.
So you answer me this. Do you think that it was Frost's mistake to start Milton? Or
I'm not in practice every week, so I don't know. So I won't go as far to say it was a mistake. Would it be who I would have chosen? No, but that's not news to anyone that's been watching this or you've been speaking with me over the past couple weeks about this stuff. That's not news. But Frost is seeing this stuff at practice, and he's obviously looking for something specifically in the quarterback position. I would personally want a guy who can throw to an open receiver or can at least find them and not just seem like he's allergic to him, because there has to be something. Because there's so many people, if the entire stands are yelling throw the ball and they're seeing all the open receivers, how is the guy that's supposed to be running the offense not at least seeing two of them and being able to get it to him? That's just my question. But as to answer yours, I don't think that was a mistake per se that could be that's why we didn't win, because I'm not in practice and that's a coach's decision at the end of the day. I just think a lot of his decision making, I think he went conservative and was playing not to lose instead of to win. Yeah. The only thing I could see from a Frost standpoint that he likes a little bit more about Milton than Holman is him running the ball, which we did see on what was a 60-yard plus touchdown run. And that was something that I saw in the stands, that just from a standpoint, because he kept handing it off. I'm like, if he just keeps this, no one was even remotely looking at him after he would they weren't even honoring the fake for the run. And I'm like, why doesn't he just keep it? Because he's going to be able to do it. Then he does it in a 63-yard touchdown run.
Yeah, I thought he was going to get caught at the end, though.
Yeah, because I was impressed. He did have that getaway speed.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, I'll take it. Because that's the thing is that, I can say I'm not the biggest fan of a player, but as for a team standpoint, why would I want them not to succeed? So my team succeeds at that point. I can have a player I don't like, I'm not a fan of, but at the end of the day, if they're able to prove me wrong, then I'm thrilled about that.
Yeah.
But I still wasn't, even after that touchdown run, I wasn't well, there it is. I just figured a lot of people are now going to defend, saying, well, look at that. Like, well, yeah, because it was wide open. Like, you could have had, like, just someone
You
on
and I could've gotten it.
yeah, you or I could have at least gotten at least 40 yards off of that. I'm not going to say I pulled it off and score. But I would have gotten some chunk yardage out of that because Temple wasn't honoring it. But I do give him credit for taking it and scoring because that was some getaway speed that I didn't think he had, and he did. And I think he surprised himself. And Leland was down on the sidelines, and I saw him down there shooting pictures and stuff too. That's why our pictures for this episode are so awesome, is because he was able to get a field pass to go down there this week. And it looked like he ran right to him. And because it was a heck of a moment because the stadium just erupted at that point. And it was a lot of fun. But it came down to the second half that was all in the first half. And this was kind of stuff that bit them in the butt last year, was that they didn't do anything in the second half.
Yeah, they
were
couldn't
a
finish.
horrible second half team. I mean, not that there was much in the first half either for some games, but there were some times where, like I remember for when we played Houston last year, which was the homecoming game for last year, is that it was only like 20-10 at halftime. I think it would have been 14 to 10 going into half, but we let Houston get a late touchdown to go up 21-10 or something like that. But then, so it was like close. It was competitive because Houston was having a pretty good year. Mm-hmm. But then, the second half was when the floodgates opened. And it just seemed like it was a completely different team coming out of halftime. And I didn't see that as much today. I think the defense adjusted very well. I thought that for the amount of time they were forced to spend on the field, I'm going to look and see what the time of possession was for Temple, because they had to have absolutely had way more than us by the end of the game, because the defense was out there way too long to justifiably say that they should have time of possession. Temple had the ball 37 minutes 18 seconds as compared to UCF having it for 22 minutes and 42 seconds.
Yes.
That's too long for the defense to be out there. Like, it just is it's just not acceptable, because that defense is going to get tired. I don't care who they're playing. Like, you're playing Alabama or you're playing Temple. Like, if you let Alabama have the ball for 37 minutes, they're going to score a lot of points, and they're going to wear that defense out. Mm-hmm. And so, like, you can see as a not good team like Temple is able to drop 26 only with being on the field for that much of a chunk of the game. They haven't had, like, it had to have been like 60 like plus for like time of possession, if you want to say it like that. Like, they had the ball majority of the game. Like, I just can't see how, like, if anyone wants to try and say anything on that defense, like, I'm going to defend the defense. Like, number 5, Pittman, he had a great game. It was that defense should have made some. They had a lot of arm tackles. Put it lightly. Too many arm tackles. You got to actually hit that guy. But they had a great game. They did very well, because only giving up 26 points in a college football game is not that bad. It's really not, because 26 is pretty decent considering the last touchdown was
with 1 second.
Was 1 second left. So they held them to about 20 points the entire game. That's pretty good, because I don't even think total yards they had us by a little bit. But it just, I don't know. I just was not left with a good taste in my mouth after the game. I lost my voice, and I'm still fighting that today. But I just think that it was a very lost opportunity. And I think, like, it's a big declaration. I text this to Leland, but I do still believe it. I think the honeymoon with Frost is over, because we need to start being a little bit more realistic and a little bit more like, okay, we need to start actually being more evaluating who's out there on the field to kind of see how we can build for the next year.
Yeah, I thought it was the second half was horrible.
It was.
I thought at one point he's going to actually make a quarterback change move.
I mean, because it seemed like it at some point, because it just was that pressure-wise, he was rolling the wrong way. He just wasn't. I hate to think that I'm just like totally ragging on this guy, but it hurt our offense, a lot of these decisions. The thing that doesn't help is our offensive line is having a hard time giving our quarterback time. And that's something that no matter who's back there, like you give me Lamar Jackson, if he has a guy like has his own lineman in his lap the entire game, he's not going to be able to have his normal type of game. Yeah. So even if we have a Holman, a Milton, like it's still like it's not fair to them from the standpoint of that if they have constant pressure. But with a guy like Milton, I will say that's probably why he's valued a little bit more for Frost, is because his escapability. Yes, his taking off and running. But he was just not feeling the pressure right, because he was rolling the wrong way. Like, I remember that Hail Mary attempt.
Oh, yeah, he got
At the end of the first half, he didn't even roll out the right way for the Hail Mary. All of his receivers are on the right side of the field. He rolls out to the left.
And they get sacked.
I don't care if you're Captain America. No one's going to make that throw from the other hash to the end zone. Like, it just is, and that could come down to just freshman stuff. Freshman mistakes. But, like, I don't know. I wouldn't even roll out and do that on Madden. Give me Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady. I'm not rolling out to my left and then throwing it back across the field. It's just a lot of difficult stuff, and losses like this are very easy to nitpick because say we just run the clock out and we don't punt it back to Temple, we're talking about how great of a game it was and how like maybe they should have put more points up because it was a little shaky second half that was a little too close for comfort, but just a couple plays, like what was it, 4-play drive for Temple to score? Those 4 plays, difference in us nitpicking the hell out of this team and instead of celebrating a homecoming win.
That is true.
All right, and then before we fully wrap up the football game is we will talk about one of our favorite players, Adrian Killings, that he did have a kind of a quiet night last night.
Yeah,
even though he did get a touchdown, though. It was a great route, and Milton did drop that in the bucket. He did. It was a beautiful throw and a beautiful route to get a nice touchdown, but he did get bottled up a little bit, and you almost have to wonder, with a guy like him, with the kind of momentum he was carrying and running on, if having an extra week off unexpectedly kind of added to a lull to him because Temple was ready for him.
Yeah.
And I remember one, the first kickoff return he had, I think he thinks he's a little faster than he is. Or he's been reading his paper clippings too much. He's been reading the paper a little too much about how fast he is because he tried to stop and run backwards a little bit. Like he was Devin Hester on like 08 Madden, running back and forth all over the field. But like I think he just was looking for the home run a little too much instead of just going and taking advantage of that speed.
Yeah, what they gave him.
Yeah, take what you can get from the defense or a kickoff team and work that. Mm-hmm. Not be looking for the perfect crease to take off because it's not always going to be there. Especially as more and more teams are going to be ready for him, and that's something these guys need to start to understand is that. More and more teams are not going to be overlooking them now as they start surprising other teams and being a little bit more competitive and having guys like Killings. As much as I love him, I still love him. He'll continue to have a great year because he'll have quiet games. That just happens for anyone. But to kind of be able to realize that people are going to be ready for us by the end of the year. It's not going to start being a mystery anymore as to whether or not we're going to give teams a fight because that is going to be the case. But was there anyone else you saw from the game last night that you liked?
A guy I would like to talk about is Traquan Smith. He did have a limited game with only 3 catches, but he did have a touchdown also.
Yeah, it was 3 receptions for like 100 yards and a touchdown because one of them was that 55-yard touchdown to open up the game. And it is something that's interesting because that's a guy they need to use.
Yeah, he needs to be given the ball in space.
3 catches is not enough. That's not enough for a guy of his talent. Because I remember I think probably the last catch he had in the game had to have been was a scramble where Milton just threw up a prayer and he came down with it for the first down. But he's a guy that just do that. Give him a chance to catch it, or give him some shorter plays that he can just get his hands on the ball to get more involved in the game. Because of a player like of his caliber shouldn't just be left off to the side and feel isolated out of the game because that's what these teams are going to want. They're going to want to isolate a player of his caliber because he is so talented. He's very, very good at making these just acrobatic and just very clutch catches. Give him a chance to because only 3 catches, and it wasn't like as a matter of like how many times he was targeted because he needed to be targeted more because he was probably maybe targeted 5 times. Maybe someone that like has access to that information or actually remembers would say otherwise, but I don't think he was targeted enough because at least 3 catches that's not enough for your star receiver.
Yeah, him and Killins have to be used more in offense.
Yes.
If they're going to win, they have to use them more.
And another guy that I've talked about that I really like is Jordan Akins, 88, who actually has made the transition to tight end. That's a guy that's a mismatch because he was our number 1 receiver last year, and he's now moved to tight end. So he's a big dude, number 88. And to say that, like, these linebackers, they're not going to be able to cover him. Mm-hmm. No, he's coming off the ACL, so he might be a little slower. I don't know. But from the standpoint of that, you have a guy that has that level of talent to be a number 1 wide receiver on this team just last year. To then he's big enough to be able to move into tight end. why not use him against these linebackers? Isolate these linebackers that a normal college linebacker is not going to be able to cover him. Shouldn't. He's a huge guy with great hands, and he's got some pretty solid speed. They need to use that against these teams that want to load up the box. We'll take that advantage of get him out on a post or something like that, on a play action, to roll out and just get it to him. Let him go make a play. Because that's the thing with our skill players, with Killings, Traquan Smith, Jordan Akins, and some of these other players that we have a lot of great skill players. The quarterbacks just need to get it to him, and that doesn't matter who's under center, because that's something that's the reason why Holman's even made it possible for Milton to be in, is that he's had trouble getting it to the guys and making better decisions, and that's why whoever's in there, and that's what I want out of Milton. That's how he can get better, is making decisions, of seeing an open player doing it, or if not, tucking and going. That it just has to be very split-second decisions. They have to be made, because any longer that you wait, you're just inviting that defense to get closer and to take any unnecessary hits, because he took a nasty hit last night, Milton did. I remember it. He got smoked on one play, and you just can't take those hits, because he's not a big guy. Won't be around very long if you keep taking those hits. I don't care who you are. And then because it was a very tough loss last night, especially at the end of the game. The whole student section was just absolutely destroyed, and the team was too. Because even actually one of the football players went up to one of the cameramen on the sideline, because of course all those guys are rushing in. They want to get their pictures and stuff like that, because, I mean, if I'm getting paid for it to go do this stuff, I want to have that picture. And one of the players actually pushed down one of the lenses up for one of the cameramen. It was like, just don't take pictures of us right now. And that's something that, I mean, Frost even kind of alluded to in his post-game press conference, was they can't just deviate to just that kind of stuff, because that's how you end up with an 0-12 season.
Yeah, multiple losses, and then everyone gets mad, and everyone gets divided.
You get it in that mental standpoint of just shutting down, and you just can't have that, because as tough as that is, you just gotta take it in stride. You gotta keep going and understand, like, hey, we got UConn this week. We got UConn now. Like, this is gonna suck tonight. But just don't give anyone don't give them your power in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
Don't let it be a big deal. Because, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, you need to understand that. And it's actually something interesting, because I was talking with Leland about this, was that a lot of these guys, this is their first experience with being in the big time like this. I mean, I use big time loosely for us, but it's still true, is that a lot of them are coming from high school games where, some of their friends from their, like, economics classes there, as opposed to, like, 20,000 people in the stands.
Yeah, it's actually like 30,000.
30,000. I think we've actually, this is true. I did see this. For our past 2 home games, we've led the American Athletic Conference in home attendance.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Huge. That's huge. But just that you're playing in front of these crowds. You're on national television. We're on ESPN last night. That you're just not used to these lights, and you got to understand that. Got to have some composure. And even though you haven't been there before, the saying is, act like you've been there before. And that's an important thing that these guys are going to have to learn, because how does Alabama come back in these games? Like after they lose, you're like, oh God, what's going to happen to the team next week? Like the team that they play next week, they're just going to
get demolished.
Maul them. And that's the thing that, like, and they don't, like, and after the game, they're just like, well, they got us this time, but we're sure as hell not going to feel this again or let this happen again. And that's the mindset that they're going to need to get to. Not pushing cameras out of the way. They need to start pushing opponents out of the way and start just going after them and using that pain and disappointment to turn that into something good.
Yeah.
Because the schedule is still very favorable to get 4 more wins and go to a bowl game. That's all I want from them this year. And they can do it. It needs to start next week. You can't lose 2 in a row. Can't.
That's definitely. Win against Houston would be big too.
Win against Houston would be amazing, and we'll talk a little bit more about Houston a little bit before we wrap up this stuff with the game.
And USF.
And USF. It just was a lot of good stuff that's from this, and it stinks that 4 plays have to be what changes the outcome of all this, but it still is what it is. And that's kind of the stuff that happened last year that led to that awful rut, which was 12 games of just poor mental strength that they need to overcome. And I'm sure Frost is going to do everything in his power to make sure that doesn't happen, because he's even continued on to talk about, as we said before, it's a mindset thing. Because there are a lot of positives, because this still was an 0-12 team last year. A lot of freshmen are playing. A lot of younger players with little experience are playing. And they're just going to have to learn from this, and sometimes you got to learn the hard way.
Yeah.
And that, unfortunately, is what we're going to get. And it will be interesting to see how we carry this into UConn next week, because they will not be back till November 5th for the rescheduled Tulane game, which will still be the armored in black for the fans that should be going to the game, because a lot of other teams are fighting that, and we can kind of start to transition out of that now. We can talk about other games. Talk about USF. Was that USF's having a hard time with attendance. They really are, and it's surprising because they have a nice stadium that they're playing in at Raymond James.
Yeah.
I mean, a little partial, but it's a freaking pirate ship. But, I mean, they're playing in a very nice stadium, an NFL stadium, and they're struggling to get people in there. And they're very good this year. What, they're 5-1 or something like this at this point?
6-1.
6-1, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, they're 6-1. And that's a great record. Like, they're already, like, technically bowl eligible through 7 games.
Yeah, they play in the Raymond James Stadium.
Yeah, they play in
the
Raymond
Bucs
James
Stadium.
where the Bucks play. Like, it's a great stadium. It's a freaking pirate ship.
Yeah.
But I just don't understand why fans aren't going. But that's their own issue that they are fighting to deal with. But it's just something to like look at for them. It's just they absolutely smacked UConn this week too, and their attendance isn't going to get any better. But they're going to be one of the better competitors in the American Athletic Conference this year, because the game against Houston for them this year is going to be huge
yeah.
to decide the conference. And it'll be very interesting to see how that plays out. But it just is the attendance. It's nuts. And it's something that USF's actually starting to really work with, because they are trying to get a stadium on campus. And for some reason, the university wants to justify it as, well, no one's going to the games at Raymond James, which is a 20-minute bus ride.
Yeah.
But, like, no, they're not going because it is a 20-minute bus ride to go to just to watch their school play. But then they look at just up the street, UCF, that this team's 0-12 coming out of this year. We're 3-2, or we'll be 3-3, and we had like 30,000 people at our game. Because it's easy enough for the student body to go, and it's a better environment.
Yeah.
To tailgate a memory mall right by the stadium on campus, to like the whole campus shuts down, and it's like all of the events are for that. All the shuttles are coming in, bringing students to the game. That's something great that a program like USF needs to like quit justifying, is that no one's going 20 minutes away. To that, no, they would go if I'm in my dorm, whatever dorm it is. But like I'm saying here, like, I'm going to go to the game because, like, what's my justification for not going? I get in, the USF gets in for free, too, or for free. They're in their tuition payments and stuff like that. they get in, they don't have to pay for a ticket. Like, they swipe their IDs, and then they just get to walk to the game, like, in that sense. Like, it's a 15-minute walk at most from wherever you are, like, around UCF. And that's what it should be for some of these campuses, because I think they're missing out on something awesome. And it's not like Bright House Stadium's a nice field and everything, but it's not like that's an expensive stadium. That's not like what the Vikings opened up, where it's some just like complex, where it's like something. It's not Jerry World in Dallas, like something like nuts. Like, it's just something simple. It's an easier erector set, which is like what Orlando City's putting in downtown for their just own stadium, where it's actually reducing seats, but it's going to be a better environment because it's going to be a better stadium suited for them. And it's just going to be a better environment just in general, because it's just going to be Orlando City Stadium. And that's something that a lot of these programs need to look at. And other American Athletic Conference games was Houston. We talked about them. They escaped disaster to yet another inferior opponent this week in Tulsa. Or maybe Tulsa's going to go off and beat Bama this year. I don't know. But Houston survived by just the hair on their chin, to put it lightly, was that they stopped Tulsa with 1 second left on the 1-yard line. The tight end for Tulsa just needed to stick the ball out, and they would have tied it and gone to overtime, but they won 38-31. But it was stunning, because that, as far as I'm concerned, I mean, unless Houston destroys Louisville, I don't see how. I don't see how they jump up and are in consideration, because that Navy loss hurt last week. And this kind of stumbling over Tulsa. It's Tulsa. Listen, I don't care if UCF goes and loses to Tulsa. We don't have the expectations Houston has. And that's just big. And it was very surprising to see that during the game. And I was even a little disappointed because I was kind of looking at that like, goodness, like we beat Temple, we finished this thing off. Tulsa
we're
beats
right there.
Houston. That's a race between us and USF for the conference.
Yeah,
That's
a win-
massive.
just a win on I-4 and we got
Yep.
the conference.
And then you went out and beat USF. Like it doesn't even matter if we lost to Houston at that point. You just need to beat USF, and so that's all you would need. And so like it just was the landscape of the conference could have greatly shifted yesterday, but unfortunately UCF lost and
then
Houston
Houston
was
won.
able to survive, to put it absolutely lightly. And there were a lot of other great games yesterday as well. One awesome game that I enjoyed but was very disappointed by the team that won was Clemson. And their game against North Carolina State. That was just
A nail biter.
yes, it was a
Wow.
nail biter because it came down to that NC State should have won the game. They shanked a short field goal with no time left, and it went to overtime. Clemson goes down, scores, and then NC State throws an interception on their possession in overtime for that to be it. But it was a very disappointing game by Clemson. I don't think they have. I think their defense is very good. They have a lot of talented players on that defense. That offense, I'm not impressed.
Yeah, Deshaun Watson isn't.
Deshaun Watson is wonderful at staring receivers down. I knew where every single ball was going yesterday in the little bit I watched. And finally, he threw an interception and he threw an ugly pick six because the corner the defense, it was a great call. Like they had him kind of like weirdly shift off, and he just looked at Deshaun Watson and just waited for him to throw the ball because Deshaun Watson was staring his receiver down. He just jumped up, picked it, and then took it back. I was very unimpressed, and I think they'll be like, oh, look, he had 300-something yards of offense because they're that much more talented than everyone else. But if you're going to stare down receivers, then you're going to have a tough time when you play a good defense and a team that is pretty talented. And it'll be very interesting to see what happens when they do play Florida State in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Because I promise you, Louisville are the biggest Florida State fans in 2 weeks if they take care of their business, because that means the ACC is theirs at that point.
And there also were some other good games.
There were.
There's some games we picked on also.
Oh, we talked about those?
Also some games we picked on. First one we had was Alabama, Tennessee.
Yes, that one kind of went as we expected it last week, I will say, because I talked about not wanting to pick against Alabama because there are better decisions to make in life. and it really was, is Tennessee did their normal shtick and got behind in the first half, but Bama doesn't give up leads.
There was no coming back for that one.
Oh, no. Their quarterback, Hurts, he was impressive.
He had another rushing TD day.
Very fast. He's surprisingly fast because it just seems like he has like extra field or something like that to run on that everyone else doesn't. Because it just looks like he's going, and he got the corner. And once he gets the corner, he runs. He was very good. But the final score for that was Alabama 49 to Tennessee 10.
And then after that, we had Ohio State, Wisconsin.
That one was a lot closer than I thought it would be when we picked this last week. I thought it was going to kind of be Ohio State does what they normally do and just kind of run away with it. But Wisconsin did have a lead for a good portion of the game.
Yeah, the lead only changed in, fourth quarter?
Yes, it was very late in the game.
Yeah, fourth quarter, Ohio State went up, then they tied it up with a field goal.
Yep.
And then
it went to overtime.
OT, and then after that, Ohio State went down, had 2 penalties, still scored.
Yeah.
And then last play of the game, Wisconsin, Hornibrook got sacked.
Yep. Yeah, he needs to get rid of the ball. You can't just hold the ball like that. But that's besides the point. But it was a very, very interesting game. I was actually very impressed by Wisconsin, as I have been all year, and we talked about this before the show. Was that, and we talked about, you were a little upset how they didn't go down further in the rankings.
Yeah.
But I told you that tell me who has better 2 losses than them. To play Michigan and Ohio State and lose by 7 points and then lose by 6? That's not bad. Those are Ohio State definitely. Michigan, we'll see if they prove it at the end of the year because they still have to play Ohio State.
Yeah.
That's going to be a game.
That's going to be a great game.
But that's something Michigan needs to prove themselves. But Ohio State, that's the the cream of the crop there, and that they've held their own against that, and that's something to be said about that. Granted, they're not going to be in the grand scheme of things for the college football playoffs anymore. 2 losses. I mean, as great as they are, those you could put Ohio State and Michigan in the playoffs before, even they would have to completely just melt down for Wisconsin to be considered. But it still was a pretty good game, but we did pick the same 2 teams for those. So we did have our rubber match, which was unfortunately North Carolina and Miami.
Yeah,
I will let you run with this one.
He went with Miami, saying they wouldn't lose 2 back-to-back.
I was saying for the sake of their season that they should lose 2 back-to-back.
But after a hard-fought game, they lost by 7 to North Carolina, like I predicted.
I don't get North Carolina, by the way. What is up with this team? But that's besides the point. They did. It was a game Miami needed to have, and they didn't get it. It was at home too.
Miami, I don't know. I felt like they couldn't do it. They were just the high hype coming in.
I think it was a bit of a hangover from that Florida State loss because it was a tough one.
Yeah.
Because I think they put a lot into that game and didn't get it.
They put everything they had in that one.
And that's what I think was similar to what happened with Houston as well. Was that Houston was having a bit of a hangover from that loss to Navy because Navy dropped 40-something on them?
Yeah.
Navy's never dropped that in their life.
Their school history.
Listen, I respect your service, but not your football team. But hey, that's the thing is they were experiencing a bit of a hangover, and I think Miami had that from Florida State.
Yeah.
And that was something that North Carolina took advantage of, and good on them.
Yeah,
but that unfortunately means you win this week.
Yeah.
To draw us level 2-2 in our recurring series.
I mean, that's hangovers. That's what UCF's trying not to have, to say the least, this week coming up against UConn.
Yeah. Yep. No, that will be something important to look forward to as a Knights fan, to see that we don't have this unfortunate just hangover that affects a lot of teams. And what we're going to do is going to be revolutionary this week. We're going to write down our picks. so we're not scrambling on a Sunday morning to figure out who the hell did I pick. Because I'm pulling up notes on my laptop, and we will do that as we do our picks for this week. And you can look through the other games, but the best matchup for the weekend will be this coming Saturday at 3:30. It will be Alabama and Texas A&M.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
You already know I got who I have.
What, Roll Tide?
Yeah.
I think...
Don't say it.
Oh, I think I'm going to do it. I think I'm going to go Texas A&M. I think I will.
Oh, God.
I think I will. I like what they've been doing with Trevor Knight, and I think it'll be interesting because I think defensively, I think that they will be able to do a little bit more. Because they have a lot of blue chip players and some first round draft picks on that defense to see if their horses will be able to go after Hurts to see if they can stop him. But it'll be interesting to see if Trevor Knight has a good game. Then I see that A&M might be able to do it because last time A&M had a good quarterback, they're running around making plays. They beat Bama.
Yeah.
That was Johnny Football. Yeah, so maybe you'll have a little bit of that magic in him to be able to beat Alabama. Do you see any other games on this list that are worth picking?
Number 17 Arkansas going against 21 Auburn.
Okay.
So for that, I'll have to go Arkansas.
You like Arkansas?
Yeah.
Arkansas has had a really good year this year, but I don't know. Maybe I like Auburn a lot. I visited that school. It was beautiful. It was an amazing campus. If you've never been, that would be a place to just go visit. I think I'll go Auburn in that sense because it was awesome.
And there's one last big
one.
one. It's Ole Miss against LSU.
Oh, this one, that should be interesting.
Yeah. Listen, here's how my pick's gonna go. It's a little complicated.
Yeah.
I'm going with LSU if Leonard Fournette plays.
Oh, but you can't you gotta pick one. You gotta pick one. I think.
All right, I'm going LSU the whole way.
I think. Oh, but goodness, I think we've talked about Chad Kelly before. He's so self-destructive, as he is normally. And should I bank on him being not self-destructive?
You take
I don't know. But I don't like. I think defensively they're good enough to stop LSU because all they have to do is stop Fournette.
Yeah.
And so I think I will go Ole Miss in that sense.
Okay.
I think this might be the first week that we have not picked a single game the same way. So it should interestingly make this quite the week for picks. And to really, we will not have any other bull like it was last week with the Florida LSU game, which did, as we will follow up briefly to talk about, was it did get rescheduled to November 19th, and it will not be in Gainesville anymore. It will be in Baton Rouge.
That's a big one. Florida must lose a lot of tickets there. And
money. Yeah, because you told me, this is actually news to me that you told me this, was that they're going to have to refund all the tickets, which is a lot of money.
A lot.
Because a lot of people love their Gators and love going to that game, and it was a big game. And I do have a buddy that actually is, he goes to UF right now, and he is a part of their ESPN coverage and stuff like that. And I did not agree with what he said, to be honest, because he was like, he said it's disappointing that they lose a home game to LSU, which is important in the grand scheme of things, for the team-wise. But he said as a student, it made it a disappointing home schedule this year. And I didn't like that. I was like, I don't think as a fan you're concerned about who's coming. I think you're happy that your team's there. And I don't, I
don't know. Who's coming makes a difference. But just like if Houston were to come here, I feel like the stadium would be 10 times more packed than any other team.
But that isn't for me as a fan. I want to just go see my team play.
You want to go see your team play along with them play someone that's quality.
I would. I don't care if we win by 50 or if we win by 5. I just want to see us play. It's not more concern to me they're going to have to bring someone in to get me to go to the game. Not Temple. UCF's going to have to schedule a little better next year to get me to go.
I'm saying, think about a game between UCF and let's say they bring in FSU. It's going to be way more covered, way more people, way more intensity than just a game of UCF against Temple.
But I'm not disappointed that we're playing Temple, that I'm not disappointed by the home schedule, that it wasn't up to my standards. That's kind of from that sense. I totally get it's more exciting to think we're having that team come in and it'll be interesting to see. But I think if from a fan standpoint, at least for me, I'm not the season's ruined. LSU's not coming. We're going to have to play FAU. Oh.
It's a little different from Florida's perspective, though, because they bring the powerhouses in.
But I just think, if you, at least my perspective, and you can totally disagree, that's fine. But I think, if you're going to be a fan of a team, I think it shouldn't be a disappointing home schedule that ruins your week. I think it should be that you're happy to go see your team play. Obviously, it's a lot better with a win. I mean, who's not going to like winning?
Yeah.
But win or lose, to actually be a fan of your team and enjoy watching them. And that doesn't mean if UCF is down 40-0 at halftime that I will not leave. It's got to be decently close for me to justify just torturing myself like that. But just to go and enjoy seeing your team play on the field, because there's only so many chances you're going to be able to do that. And that's something I don't know. I just think that it shouldn't necessarily be taken for granted to that if you do have a quality football program or a football program at all, to just kind of FAU's coming in, this isn't even worth my time. But the fact that no, the football team's coming in, that's awesome. That's my school. That's who they're representing me, and they're playing for all of us. I think that's more important to look at than they need to have someone for me to go watch. I mean, it definitely, you can have, a lot of people have different opinions on that because everyone's allowed to have them. And it just from that sense. But it was something that kind of grinded my gears this week, to put it like that. We won't be doing an in-depth weekly recap this episode because we do have a lot of awesome coverage videos on our channel that you should check out, because we did go out to these events this week. We have awesome videos for Spirit Splash and the fireworks that the links will be in the description. They also will be out on the channel as well under the events playlist that you definitely should go and check out. And then while you're there clicking around on our channel, do not forget to subscribe. And also, while you're out on social media, don't forget to look for us. I am at Jimmy T on air.
I'm at ghost_A7.
Yeah, feel free to follow us on there. Don't forget to like us on Facebook, which is just simply the Jimmy T Podcast. If you see the football logo, you're in the right place. You can like us, and you can even click to get notifications from when we post stuff, which will be where we'll be posting links to videos, we'll be posting pictures of events that we're going out to get pictures at. There's a lot of awesome stuff, and seriously, subscribe to us on YouTube. That is important. And we do realize this has been a long episode this week, but if you stuck with us, just tweet at either one of us, #LongShow with whatever quote you do want at the end of the episode next week to fit with our quotes. And it will be on there if you include #LongShow and tweet it at one of us on Twitter.
Most definitely me.
Yes, one of us. I mean, my handle I was at least able to say a little bit better the first time, and mine's a little easier. No underscores. I got rid of that on my Twitter. And we will just go right into our quotes this week. If you want to go first.
Yeah, going first. I got probably the best quote you need. It says, "Common sense is like deodorant. The people who need it the most never use it."
That's pretty good. And I will do a George W. Bush quote. "Families is where our nation finds hope, where wings take dream." Something to think about, some food for thought. All right, don't forget to subscribe to us. And this is all thanks to OSI Podcast at UCF. Thank Leland for editing and getting all the awesome pictures for this week. And Zoe for making this all possible, for letting us in the studio. This has been another episode of the Jimmy T Podcast. We'll see you next week.
Charge on.